right, welcome to day 3 of senior speeches. In the Bible, all we know about Jesus during this period of his life is it says he grew in wisdom and stature and knowledge and favor with God and man, and we've seen that play out with all our students. But today's a special day because we have 4 students from the actual Eastwood congregation and church here that we've had extra time to see that play out. 2 of them I've known since the day I moved here with the military when they were just little, maybe 6 or 7 year olds, and I've gotten to know Brody and Porter since then as well. But we're happy to welcome 4 of our children of our church to come speak today. We're going to have Knox and Brody and Matt, who's ventilating. He's breathing hard right now, and Porter. This is nothing to you, Matt. All right, Knox, come on up. Thank you.
It's just water, I promise. There have been times here at Eastwood when I've thought to myself, why couldn't I have done online school? I mean, yes, I've learned stuff, but 13 years? I'm not going to beat around the bush here. Today, I'm going to tell you exactly what 13 years here has been like. And there's only one analogy that can describe an Eastwood experience. You all know it. It's essential to the upbringing of each and every child. It establishes character, and it's integral to American life. It is the art of using magazine discount coupons to pay for your fast food. I know it sounds ridiculous, but bear with me. It shares a shocking resemblance to Eastwood. First, let me stress that it is not the coupons themselves, but rather the actual experience that so accurately imitates an in-person education, especially Eastwood. Now, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, here's how magazine couponing works, at least in my experience. You're a hungry family of 6 driving through Demopolis, and you've got coupons in your car somewhere. And yes, they're always there because the car never gets cleaned out. So you belabor to find them, while everybody else argues about where to eat. The boys logically debate about prices, customer service, the most economically advantageous option, the loyalty to the privately owned American farm, quality of the ingredients, environmentally safe plastics, in all civility, all that good stuff. And the girls argue about, I don't really know what the girls argue about, to be honest. Bathrooms, I guess. The point is that overall, there's a lot of bickering that goes into choosing a restaurant. The volume levels themselves make you question whether it was a good idea to put the coupons in the car in the first place. But somehow, Wendy's always hands out the best coupons. So you end up there, standing in the parking lot with a mangled magazine in your hands. For those of you who don't know, restaurants never allow you to use 2 coupons for the same order. They don't tell you that on paper, only experienced customers know it. Yeah, subscribe to this channel for Coupons 101. So the plan always operates like this. Dad goes in first with Mom and Johnson using one hand-torn coupon, then instructs me to come in with the girls using another. Exactly 4 minutes and 31 seconds later. Precision is key. And of course, I've got to pretend that I've never met them before. Complicated, I know. Cautionary me always says something to the extent of, they'll see right through that, I'm 12. Like, I don't really know where I am right now. I just woke up from a nice car nap. So maybe we should just follow the rules and use one card. I got spanked for that. Anyways, Dad leaves us in the parking lot nonetheless, counting, of course, and we eventually go in. Upon entrance, everyone in the store is already angrily looking at us. I'm certain they already know what we're up to. We tell ourselves that they're all just jealous and move up the line. Well, sort of. You all know that the line at any Wendy's restaurant is virtually non-existent. To be frank, it's just a bunch of angry people talking on the phone. It's always this way. So, you got to guess who to cut in front of as you kind of move, push your way to the counter. It's almost like a bunch of goats coming to the trough, at the sound of grain. But before you think that the customers are the worst part of the experience, they're nothing compared to the cashier. First off, she says absolutely nothing. You'd think that you'd hear a good morning, welcome, how you doing? But nope, you don't. Just silence. Just silence. Eventually, I realize that I've got to carry on with the plan. Everybody in line has surrounded us, looming over us like menacing clouds, coiling around us like anacondas, my vision closing in. I don't know what to say, so I kind of just slide the coupon over to her. Don't look her in the face, just staring at the coupon like she can handle it. And do you know what she does? She cocks her head to the side like this and says probably the rudest and most frightening thing she possibly could. Ladies and gentlemen, as you all are well aware, that is a Southern curse word. And this is the moment when it goes from just awkward to hostile. The whole restaurant is laser beaming you with their eyes. Everyone under 25 is laughing, and everyone over that age is growling and about to throw their chicken nuggets. You're up there like, I feel like I should apologize. I didn't want to be that customer. But you can't on any terms. It would foil the whole plan. You just have to grit your teeth and move on. You think that it couldn't get any worse, but it does. Coupons on the counter, still right where I left it. And you've got to order. You've got to say something. It's arguably the hardest part. I changed my order 3 different times. The barcode doesn't work, so while she tries to punch in the 43 digits in fine print, I nervously drop the credit card on the floor. My sisters have both supposedly gone to the bathroom, and it's all just a bit overwhelming. But finally, the food comes with that free extra fry. The smell is heavenly. The bag looks like a balloon. And then you open the bag, and all your anxieties turn into aggravation as you realize that the fries look like uncooked spaghetti noodles, and half of them aren't even in the container. All of that suffering, all for that. The question I've been trying to answer for years and now pose to you is, was it worth it? Was all of that embarrassment worth the 79 cents we saved? And here's the point. You can get a high school diploma online for way cheaper, way faster, and a lot less trouble. 13 long years at this place make me wonder if all the energy I've expended here, mentally, physically, and emotionally, is worth that trade-off. And the truth is, if all you want is to graduate, it's not. If all you want from education is just a diploma, then you probably shouldn't come to Eastwood. Way more trouble than it's worth. It's inconvenient. Just like Wendy's coupons. Eastwood is the coupon experience. From small classes to rigorously long backyard sports to an extremely competitive spring musical, pop-up field trips, wacky traditions, and unearthly events, Eastwood is inconvenient. Believe me. But I'm here to tell you today that it was worth it. Not just because of what I got out, but because, strangely enough, of the inconvenient experience that forced me to put something in. We seek modern convenience because it distracts us from the pain of this present world. We fall for the falsehood that we're not so bad after all, and that the world is something we can understand and control. In other words, we want heaven now. Modern convenience can deceive us into thinking that this world could be comfortable if we just take the easy route. It's only those magazine coupon moments, the brutality and complexity of an in-person education, that free us from being deceived by convenience and teach us that we don't actually know what real heaven is. C.S. Lewis puts it so eloquently, the longest way round is the shortest way home. The truth is, we're all guessing our way through life. And a lot of times, you can't reach the milestone without tripping over 5 others on your way to it. That's why inconvenience, the long route, is valuable. You learn your own incompetence. As the great Reverend Andrew Schmidt paraphrases Aristotle, The more I learn, the more I know that I don't know a thing. That day, standing blank-faced in front of an impatient cashier with an angry restaurant behind me, I learned that I didn't know how to talk to people, that it's an important skill, and that it wouldn't be so hard if I were aware of my surroundings. But hey, after hard years of coupon labor, I can tell you this. I know how to talk to Southern female cashiers, man. Got that box checked. The long, inconvenient route is valuable because you learn how far you are from the finish line. Through inconvenience, we get a sense of our misplacement. We were not created for a fallen world, but it's easy to think that we could have been if we worship the comfort modern convenience offers us. Sometimes it takes the most inconvenient and uncomfortable lessons to teach the simplest points. So my encouragement for you today is, don't be afraid of something just because it's not expeditious. Inconvenience can teach you a lot more than you think. It certainly has done that for me. Eastwood has been inconvenient for me, and for that reason, she deserves my undying gratitude. My diploma tells me how much I've learned. My inconvenient time at Eastwood has shown me how much I still have to. And you should all put those magazine coupons to use. So parents, faculty, students, friends, and family, thank you all for those magazine coupon experiences that you made me suffer through. There are so many of you who deserve my gratitude, and I'll show it to you by ending this speech.
Greetings, everyone. I'm sure that most, if not all of you, have built a Lego set at some time or another. If you have, you've experienced the joy of everything clicking together as it was meant to, and you've experienced the annoyance of needing the orange brick separator. But regardless of what you are building, you have experienced one universal truth. Every brick matters, even the leftover ones. I personally learned this when building my Lego medieval castle. I began by building the foundation out of the large, flat plates in the first couple bags. This is like what you were taught in the grammar school. You learn the basic operations of math, broad facts about history, and how to write a basic paragraph. These are the foundational pieces, simple on their own, but essential to everything that follows. Now, you may be wondering how foundational bricks can compare to the wealth of knowledge that you gained in the grammar school. Well, both are necessary to grow. Without the basic facts and skills from the grammar school, nothing you learn later down the road will make sense because it will be built on nothing. Similarly, without the basic plates that come in the first bags, you won't have a stable structure. Without a foundation, one of the bottom bricks can get knocked loose and cause an entire wall to fall down. Without laying down a foundation, without having something to build on, everything you build later will not stand the test of time. After completing the foundation, I moved on to the real meat of the build, the castle proper. This was the longest part by far. There were tons of small bricks that I had to keep track of, and the instructions were understandably but aggravatingly specific about what brick to use. Occasionally, I would use the wrong brick and have to deconstruct what I had built. Sometimes I was only a couple bricks in when I realized my mistake, needing only a few seconds to get back on track. Other times, being only a stud off, I would be several minutes into the error before I caught it. This is when I had to find the orange brick separator to take my mistake apart and try again with the proper bricks. This skeleton of a castle is the equivalent of the logic school. It is here that you build upon what you learned in the grammar school. The foundation that you laid down allows you to grow and learn more complex things. It is here that you go from learning PEMDAS to learning how to graph, from learning how to write a cohesive paragraph to learning to write papers spanning multiple pages. And just like building the castle, using the correct pieces matters. Forgetting an event in history or a concept in math will force you to go back and learn it in order to move forward. However, even at this stage, something is missing. The castle is standing, but it's plain. It has walls, but no character. In the same way, your education at the end of logic school is solid, but not yet distinctive. You have learned a reasonable amount in each area of learning to stop and have a sufficient education to get by in the world, but there are so many places that your education can still explore. After laboring for a couple hours, I finished constructing the structure of the castle, but I was not done yet. I still had the final bags to go through. These were the small, detailed bricks that separate one set from another. The minifigs, the little vines crawling up the walls, all of the animals that make the whole scene lively. These bricks may not contribute structurally, but they contribute the most to the vibe of the castle, making it not just an imposing structure, but a truly medieval castle. Air thick with smoke and moisture, the atmosphere cold and clammy. These pieces are akin to the rhetoric school. They may not seem essential at first, but they are what give everything meaning. They shape how the structure is understood and experienced. In the same way, rhetoric teaches you not just to know things, but to express them with clarity and purpose. These bricks matter because they transform something functional into something meaningful. They are what make your education not just complete, but impactful. To give your education a solid direction, you must complete this stage of the Eastwood education. Here you learn the specific details in your classes. You learn not only what countries went to war with each other, but also the surrounding context for the war. You learn more advanced math, more than any average person would need in their everyday life. You learn how history and literature influence each other. You learn about how organisms work, that every food is technically organic, and either how the human body works or how math applies to the real world, depending on the science you choose. These are the things that bring your education to life, that make it more than just facts. Now, you may be wondering if these decorative Lego pieces really matter that much. Let's say you had a fairy tale castle. You have the queen and her maids having tea in the garden, her pet peacocks roaming around. Now, let's say you exchange the queen, her maids, and her peacocks for knights and a dragon. You've gone from a castle at peace to a castle under attack by only changing a handful of details. This is the power of the final pieces. A few small changes can completely alter the story being told. And that is exactly why they matter. They don't just add to the build, they define it. They determine how others see it, how it functions, and even what story it tells. In the same way, the knowledge and skills you gain in the rhetoric school shape how you present what you know to the world. It's one thing to understand an idea, it's another thing entirely to communicate it clearly and effectively. Without that ability, even the strongest foundation and the most carefully constructed framework can go unnoticed or misunderstood. Your education works the same way. Grammar gives you the pieces, logic shows you how to assemble them, but rhetoric teaches you how to make something meaningful out of them. It allows you to take what you've learned and shape it into something that can influence others. It gives you a voice, and whether we like it or not, a well-used voice can make all the difference. But there's one more part of building a Lego set that often gets overlooked. What happens after you finish? At some point, you step back and look at what you've created. Maybe you admire it, maybe you notice a few imperfections, or maybe you immediately start thinking about what you would do differently next time. And eventually, whether it's days or years later, that set might be taken apart so the pieces can be used to build something new. Education is no different. What you've built here is not the final product. It's not something that you finish, put on a shelf, and never touch again. It's something you will continue to build on, reshape, and refine for the rest of your life. The foundation you've laid, the structure you've built, and the details you've added will all carry forward into whatever comes next. And just like with Legos, you won't always get it right the first time. You'll make mistakes. You'll have to take things apart and try again. You realize, halfway through, that something just isn't working the way you thought it would. But that doesn't mean the build has failed. It just means you're still working. Now I would like to say some thank yous. To my parents and grandparents, thank you for always supporting me and making me the man I am today. To my classmates, thank you all for welcoming me to Eastwood when I first came. You really made me feel at home. To my teachers, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom with me. To my coaches, thank you for spending time each day to improve me, my skill, and for being godly examples in my life. To the students, thank you for at least acting like you paid attention to what I just said. Finally, to Miss Amanda, thank you for all that you do for this school. I know that you are what makes Eastwood run, and when you're gone, it is felt by everyone. So as you move forward, remember this. Every brick matters. The foundational pieces, the structural ones, and the smallest details all play a role in what you create. Don't rush past the basics, don't ignore the process, and don't underestimate the importance of the finishing touches. Because in the end, what matters isn't that you were given pieces, but that you built something worthwhile with them. Thank you.
not to brag, but I've played pretty much every sport that Eastwood offers. I've been playing sports for all of my years at Eastwood, and I love them and have learned a lot from them. In a single year, I play a myriad of different sports. The sports, like education, is a process, and it has a purpose. This process doesn't begin when the season starts, but rather in the summer. During the summer, you go to workouts, conditioning practices, and you do drills. After conditioning for a bit, you do need to start working on certain skills so that you're not lost, and so you can avoid starting at ground zero when the season actually begins. This often consists of lots of passing and dribbling drills for basketball, long runs for cross country, and you can't forget those good old ab exercises. This part of sports can be very boring, but it is still essential for success. There is a purpose behind it. It might make sense to think that to prepare for a sports season, you just play that sport, but that isn't the case. You can't just play a lot of basketball games or tennis matches over the summer to be truly ready for the season. Instead, conditioning first allows you to eventually be able to run a full race, play a full game of basketball, or complete an entire tennis match. And having these fundamentals down ensures that you'll be able to practice harder things later on and progress in your skills. This is the idea of the grammar school. The purpose of the grammar school is to build up young students' bases of knowledge in all subjects so that they have a sturdy general knowledge and understanding of each subject before progressing. Reading, writing, memorizing, doing arithmetic, and using the scientific method are the fundamentals of education. You need to know these basic skills before moving on, and hopefully, once you've learned to do these things, you won't have to think about them. But back to the sports, because next is when the seasons actually start. And first up for me is cross country. Cross country is not a difficult sport to grasp. You just run. Sometimes you run fast, sometimes you run slow, sometimes you run short distances, and sometimes long distances. Sometimes you have to go uphill, while other times, God blesses you with a downhill. Your success in a long race often comes down to a question of how hard are you going to try? Mr. Givens sometimes told us at a practice that the way to get faster at running was to run faster. Actually trying to run well, to run fast, while very painful and very tedious, it ends up making you more physically and mentally fit for upcoming races and even other sports. This is like the idea of the logic school. It is not too hard to grasp the subjects being taught, but you have to keep your head in the game, not only so that you can make it through middle school, but so that you can have a better experience in high school as well. It gets pretty easy to be lazy. It's pretty easy to lose focus on your work. It's also pretty easy to zone out in a race or decide that you don't want to push yourself because it just makes it more tedious, more uncomfortable, or less fun. Trying hard and doing well in middle school is more tedious and less fun, but it makes high school more manageable, and you don't get as winded when doing long assignments and taking big tests. In the same way that the long runs condition your body to be able to keep going, you can condition your mind in school to be able to endure the high-level classes and assignments. When cross country finally ends, I'm on to bigger things. Basketball. Basketball is admittedly way more fun than cross country. You're finally playing a game instead of just running. But although it is more fun, it also begins to pose many more challenges. There are way more rules you have to think about. There are way more tasks you have to complete to win, rather than just crossing a finish line. Basketball games are intense and can cause a lot of exhaustion and rage. This is where the conditioning of cross country is put to the test. If you can keep your head in the game like you needed to in long races and keep your breath due to being used to running a lot, then you can definitely last the game, and your other skills won't give out. The intensity of basketball is due to the physicality of the sport, the opposition from another team, and putting your faith in referees to make the right calls. There are so many things that are not in your hands. You can prepare, give your all, play your best, and still lose. But that's not all there is, because you also have a team around you to help out, to lose with you, to win with you, and to celebrate with you. This is like your sophomore and junior years at Eastwood. Many more rules and new concepts begin appearing as the subjects you learn become more focused and detailed. There are a multitude of ways you can fail. Not doing enough or any of your homework, not studying well or studying enough for a test. Or maybe you do study enough for that test, and it still doesn't work out. It's kind of like getting injured. Sometimes you can't help it. The teachers are like the refs. You try not to upset them so the game goes better for you. And your classmates, they're the same as your teammates. They all have to do the same assignments and take the same tests as you, similar to how you play as a team in basketball. Thankfully, this means there are people to sympathize with you and help you when you're not at your best. Finally, waiting patiently for its turn is tennis season. I've always looked forward to tennis because of its excitement, its technicality, and its elegance. Going from basketball to tennis is a big shift. The physicality and contact with opponents are no longer there. There are no referees, so you must hold yourself accountable. You also have no teammates to help, unless you're playing doubles. Shout out Jacob Worley. Generally, it's just you and the ball, and you're counting on all of your training and all you have learned to get you through the match and outplay your opponent. It takes precision and specific skills to make good shots and to learn how to overcome your competition. This is much like the senior year. Classes are very different. They are more specialized. There are some really big opponents that you have to defeat, like the senior thesis paper, the defense of that paper, anatomy, calculus, and even writing this very speech. But the thing is, all the previous classes I've had and the lessons I've learned have prepared me to complete these major senior tasks. It does seem like you're on your own during these challenges, but at least we all get a thesis mentor. It's basically like having a doubles partner. You also have your coach there watching, like the teachers helping you along. There are even teammates, friends, and family in the crowd to cheer you on, even if they can't physically help you in the match, much like good classmates who make sure you complete and turn in the assignments. Sports have been very important in my education and upbringing. I used to view them as a way for me to gain glory and recognition. I loved receiving medals, trophies, and awards, but that is all vanity. The truly important things you get from sports are not the material things. Much like how the purpose of school is not for you to get awards, honor cords, or a diploma. Sports have personally taught me many lessons, like practicing patience, selflessness, self-control, peace, leadership, and even humility. Speaking of humility, there is no I in team. So I'd now like to thank the many people who have either been coaches to me or been on my team over these school years. Thank you to all of my literal coaches for instilling in me a desire to play and get better at so many sports. Thank you to all of the lower school teachers who taught me the important fundamentals and made school fun. Thank you, Nana and Vovo, for loving, taking care of, and feeding me as if I were your own son. To Oma, thank you for raising me just as much as anyone and also making me part of a different culture. To Jacob Kuhn, Mr. Schmidt, Wright Draper, Mr. Bloodworth, Pastor Bart, and Uncle Ross. Thank you for being very important spiritual leaders to me and helping me become more Christ-like. To Jake Matulia, thank you for working to keep me in check and being a mentor, always encouraging me. And even though you always have 100 other assignments and tasks to do, you always find time to talk with me. Dr. Bias, thanks for making it possible for me to play the multitude of sports all at once. Mrs. Amanda, everyone thanks you for a good reason. You are so kind while being very hardworking. Your constant and consistent diligence is what keeps the school running smoothly, and you never fail to greet me with a smile, making my day start a little better. Miss Minshew, thanks for coordinating so many fun senior activities that bring our class closer together. And I'm super indecisive, but you've helped me come up with many answers to questions about my future. Dr. Taylor, thank you for not only teaching me in class, but also for schooling me in disc golf. Mr. Miller, thank you for talking about just as much non-class information as actual class information. Your natural perspicacity makes you such an interesting teacher. You have greatly increased my curiosity and desire to learn. 9th grade boys, y'all are like younger siblings to me. Thank you for letting an unk hang out with y'all from time to time, and even y'all have taught me a thing or two. To my class, y'all are my real teammates, and you're the ones who helped me win the big games and encouraged me when I lost. Y'all are my biggest co-competitors and supporters. If I weren't in this class with y'all, I wouldn't be close to who I am now. James and John, thanks for giving me the little bit of humility I have and for being the first real competitors against me growing up. You guys have made me tougher, and childhood would have been so boring without you. Nini, it's hardly fair that I get you as a built-in best friend. You're someone I can unload my day onto, tell my gossip to, get gossip from, and someone I can always hang out with and go on outings with. Thanks for staying up late with me just to talk. Thanks for being a W sister, for occasionally driving me to school so I can finish my assignments on the way there. You're so cool, and I love you so much. To Mom and Dad, y'all are my two coaches for life. Mom, thanks for giving me good height genetics and probably the athletic genes as well. Thanks for helping me become bilingual and helping me practice French. But thank you especially for just loving me always. Dad, thank you for being a great example to me. You have taught me so well how to be a respectful man and a bold man and a godly man. I've learned so much from you and hope to keep learning from you because I want to be like you. As I may have mentioned, I have played a multitude of sports, approximately 10 or so, and oftentimes several of those at once. This may seem overwhelming, especially when you also do the play and have many classes demanding your full attention, but I enjoyed it, and I would like to leave you with an important quote for me. You may be familiar with the saying, "A jack of all trades is a master of none," but I much prefer the unabridged version, which states, "A jack of all trades is a master of none, but still oftentimes better than a master of one." So I encourage you to do what you can while you can, and make sure you know what your purpose is for doing those things.
In his book, What Can a Man Believe?, Bruce Barton tells an anecdote about the rebuilding of St. Paul's Cathedral. Christopher Wren, the man in charge of operations, goes up to 3 stonemasons and asks each one the same question. "What are you doing?" The first man doesn't even look up. "Can't you see? I'm cutting stone." The second man pauses for a second and replies, "Well, sir, I'm at work making 3 shillings and 6 pence a day so I can feed my family." The third man stands up, looks Wren in the face, and with palpable excitement proudly exclaims, "I am helping Sir Christopher Wren rebuild this cathedral." The story gives us an interesting glimpse into the different views we can have on work. All 3 men were doing the exact same thing, but each gave a very different answer. So, what was different? The answer, of course, lies in their perspective. Taking the first man, we see a very literal outlook on work. What he said certainly wasn't untrue. In fact, at face value, he was probably the most honest of the 3. He was indeed just cutting stone. But he viewed his work as drudgery, as nothing more than a dull, menial task he had to do. From the second man, we get a much more practical answer. He was hard at work in order to make money so he could support his family. Man number 2 had a transactional view on what he was doing. He had an internal drive to show up to work and work hard. Although, at some level, this is a noble view. He was working hard for the direct benefit of himself and family. It is still a somewhat self-centered view. To him, work is nothing more than just a means to an end. Finally, we get to the third guy. This man was proud to be working for Sir Christopher Wren, even if he was only cutting stone. But why? Well, he viewed his work as accomplishing something greater than himself. He would take home a paycheck just like the other 2 men, but that was not what drove him to break his back. He was helping to build something that would outlast him, and that gave him a reason to work and be excited about it. So, despite doing the exact same task, all 3 men had very different perspectives. The first man saw it as simply a task he had to do, nothing more. For the second man, work was merely a means to an end. But the third man, he was working for something that would outlast himself, something greater than his own personal goals. And this does not only apply to these anecdotal characters. Whatever we do, we have the opportunity to choose between these 3 perspectives too. Unfortunately, all too often we, as much as anyone, see school through this first view. I'm forced to go to school. I'm forced to do homework, to study, to take tests. And although I may be doing the exact same assignments as my peers, with this view that school is something forced upon me, my work loses a lot of its value. It becomes toil. If you see school as just drudgery, then in a lot of ways, that is what it will become. And the irony of this situation is the more we see something as being forced upon us, the more we complain, and the worse job we end up doing. Inevitably, our teachers have to force us even more to do our work, which creates a vicious cycle. Although it can sometimes be difficult to see why we are made to do certain assignments, our teachers do have our best interest in mind. If you choose to just do the work without complaining, often you'll see very quickly that although it does not necessarily get any easier, it does become more enjoyable. Part of growing up is learning what we should appreciate and focus our time on, and that can often require a little bit of force at first. Moving to the second man, he viewed his work as a means to an end. In his case, it was to earn money to support himself and his family. At school, very often we only study to get a good grade on an assignment, either to stay out of trouble with our parents or to get into a good college. Or maybe we work hard on a task to earn someone's praise. When these are goals, we generally do work very hard with minimal complaining. But at the end of the day, this is a pretty self-centered view on work. Work is nothing more than a means to an end to get what you want. And the end to our work doesn't always have to be external. Many times we really do just enjoy what we are doing, and our end is simply internal satisfaction. I often fall into this trap. As you may know, I love to tinker. I love to build all sorts of gadgets and do all sorts of science experiments. I genuinely really enjoy this. I spend a great deal of time thinking about and working on these projects, possibly more than I should, and definitely more than actual responsibilities, like schoolwork. And I'm sure each of you have your own hobby or activity that you spend an equal amount of time and energy on. But why do we do it? Is it only for praise from others or for a material goal? I mean, if your hobby is playing an instrument, you may get a little bit of praise. Or if your hobby is math, it may help you in school. Although it may be a factor, my guess is external reward is not what drives you to devote so much of your time to it. Very often, we are internally motivated to pursue these hobbies, if only for the satisfaction of being able to do something well. When self-satisfaction is our goal, we generally work very hard to get good at something, which is not necessarily wrong. But more often than not, ultimately, it's just a means to an end to make us feel good about ourselves. Let's look at the last man. When asked what he was doing, he smiled and said he was helping to build a cathedral. He viewed his work as accomplishing something outside of himself. He would get a paycheck at the end of the day just like the other two, but other than that, his work would probably never benefit him. In fact, he almost certainly would never even achieve the satisfaction of seeing the completed building. But he knew he was working for something greater than himself, building something that would outlast him, something that actually still stands to this day. And this caused him to find joy in his work. This should be our ultimate reason for doing what we do. In school, we receive the opportunity to learn about some amazing subjects. Although, to be fair, most of what we learn will never help us once we graduate, it is still worth learning. Why? Well, in each of these subjects, whether it's science or history or math or literature, they point us to something greater than ourselves. In science, we get to learn about the beauty that God put into creation. In history, we get to look back and see God's plan and sovereignty. In math, we get to learn about the intrinsic order of creation. In literature, we get a glimpse into truths about human nature and beauty. And these truths are not limited to the subjects we are taught at school. Even though everything is tainted by the fall, there is still something good in everything. That means there is something about it that is worth learning. The First Catechism in the Westminster Shorter Catechism says man's chief end is to glorify God and to enjoy Him forever. By learning about these subjects and consequently different aspects of God's creation, we are learning how to enjoy God even more. This is a reason to learn these subjects. Even if they do not benefit us in any immediate way, they are still worth learning, if only so we can glorify God and enjoy Him better. I've spent a lot of time learning about electricity. Nerdy, I know, but I find it fascinating. The funny thing is, though, I used to really hate both electricity and math. In fact, I vividly remember telling myself when I was maybe 7 years old, I would never do anything that involved circuit boards or mathematics. I could simply not understand them. Unfortunately, I was still in school and I still love to tinker. Although I was never forced to learn about power factor correction in lower school, I still had to learn math. But as I got older, I realized that by learning a little extra math and electrical engineering, I could take my tinkering to a whole new level. Grudgingly, I began to teach myself. I did work hard to learn it, but it was only for what I could do with the knowledge. It was only a means to an end to build cool stuff. But eventually, slowly, it started to take on a whole new light. My perspective began to change. I began to see past just the diagrams and numbers and actually appreciate the beauty of it. The more I learned about electricity, the more I began to appreciate the complexity, order, and beauty in that aspect of God's creation. And despite the promise I made as a child, I was in the shop this weekend tinkering with circuit boards. I think you will find that if your mindset is to glorify God, things will begin to take on a whole new light. You begin to appreciate even the tiniest aspects of what you're doing. Even the minutia becomes interesting. We are all called to work, but just like the stonemasons, we get to choose what perspective we want to have. It is all too often easiest to just view work as something we are forced to do, as nothing but drudgery. Or we could view work simply as a means to an end. But it is so much more than that. Work is a form of worship, and worship is about something greater than ourselves. This is the perspective God calls us to have, but ultimately, He still lets us choose. So the question is, what perspective are you going to choose? Before I conclude, there are some people I need to thank. To my class, thank you for helping to pull off some crazy ideas. High school has been a blast. To my teachers, thank you for being so patient with me. I know I've not always been the most fun student to teach. To my siblings, thank you for keeping me on my toes. No, but seriously, whether it's late night scheming about our next party or upgrading toys in the workshop, y'all have been so much fun to grow up with. To my parents, y'all have been the most amazing parents I could ask for. Whether it's just sitting down, listening about my day, or teaching me business through lemonade stand analogies, y'all have always been there for me. Also, thank you for cooking me lots of really good food. And finally, to the audience, thank you for listening to Day 4 of Senior Speeches.
Well done, seniors, particularly well done to Porter, who worked through whoever's alarm went off. I don't know who wakes up at 1:50. There we go. Well done, handled like a pro. For a second, I thought I was just going insane, and then I noticed everybody else. So well done, very well done. Good job. Another hand for them. What we heard today was a disparate group of metaphors for what it's like to grow up and learn through life, go through life. And there's something about a metaphor that is universally human. We all use them. We all use one thing to explain another. But it's biblical as well. We see metaphors throughout Scripture, throughout the Psalms. When James says a double-minded man is like a wave going back and forth, he means it. It is like a wave going back and forth because both of those things have the same creator. It's like when you hear a Beach Boys song, it sounds like another Beach Boys song because it comes from the mind of, the tortured mind of Brian. I'm sorry, I forgot my audience. When you hear a Bad Bunny song, it sounds like a Bad Bunny song because they both come from the same mind of a disobedient rodent. I don't really know him well. But this is the biblical image. The metaphors in Scripture. If you hear Babel is the Hebrew word for confusion, it's not, but it sounds like it. The word 7 in Hebrew doesn't mean complete or finished, but it sounds like it. Even the Tetragrammaton, Yahweh, doesn't mean I am, but it sounds like it. In a world that shares a single creator, things that sound alike are alike. It gives a new meaning. If you've ever heard the phrase, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. History does rhyme because it's got the same author. The same moments sound alike because they came from the same source. And we see this probably most perfectly in the parables of Jesus. They are parabolic. They are things that run together. And so when we hear these speeches taking non-obvious metaphors, they're not disparate ideas violently yoked together, but they're a way of seeing a world where things that sound alike truly are alike. And so today we heard the parable of the Lego, the parable of the athlete and his pride, the parable of the stone cutters and the parable of the fool and his coupon. And so all of these things, these parabolic ideas, all fit together because they do fit together. Things sound alike because they come from the same ultimate author. And we've got 3 more chances to hear the parabolic ideas, things that sound alike because they are alike. So please join us again tomorrow. I'm going to close this in prayer. After I do, please come up, congratulate these seniors on a job well done. And then after we're done congratulating, I will rudely shoo you all out again so our last 3 speakers can go. So if you would please bow your heads. Gracious, glorious Heavenly Father, thank you that you have sent your word to us, and let us participate in the sharing of that word. Thank you for these seniors, Lord, what they have learned, how they have grown, and the desire to share it with others. Inspire us all to desire that same thing, to share with others the lessons we have learned, the truths you have shown us. Bless us all this day, Lord, as we go out. Let us seek the rhymes of your creation. Let us seek to know that the things that sound alike are alike because they're part of your plan. Bless us this day, O Lord, we pray in your most holy name. Amen. One more time.